Okay, I have I have some worry about whether or not you can even see what's on the screen or tell what's going on the screen. So hopefully uh, this will work. What we have here is the beginnings of an oil painting. It all started um, with stuff that you've seen me do a dozen times. Um, drawing a drawing a model, so you can see it, so you can see clearly what I'm doing. Good. Um, it begins with the model, uh, usually just holding something like a stick, um, and uh, and then I make up stuff to go with it, and then once I find that I really like this drawing, I rub charcoal all over the back of it, lay the drawing down on a clean white board. This is a piece of masonite or something like it, and I lay the sketch down on the board, go over every detail of the sketch with a ballpoint pen, which transfers the sketch to the board, and then I go back over the sketch again on the board now with one of these uh, pit pit markers by Faber-Castell, and they're a brush tip. Come on, Gail, where's the camera? Okay, there it is. Okay, it's a brush tip marker which contains India ink. That is a vitally important detail because all the other inks are going to bleed their way through your layers of paint and destroy your artwork. Um, so this particular pen is not the only brand that does India ink, but it's one of the only ones, and it's got to be India ink, or you're going to wind up crying and swearing a lot, and eventually throwing your painting in the garbage and probably quitting and becoming an accountant and making 100 times more money than I do. So be on your guard against that kind of thing happening. So so you go over the sketch with the marker. Most people don't when they do sketches like this. Some people do. Some people use just traditional India ink with a dip pen or brush and ink. Some people go very carefully and really hard with a just with their charcoal or with their hi Evan, just with their charcoal or with a graphite pencil or something like that. If you do that, you're probably going to want to spray it with a fixative, a workable fixative, which is it's got a rough texture to it, so you can keep adding stuff to it. It basically makes the surface more like paper. Um, Other fixatives are more like a coat of varnish, which makes this like painting on glass. It's going to be not impossible, but a little bit resistant to getting painted on. So yeah, I'm off track again. Um, so yeah, I you do that. You get your sketch all done, and then I mixed up a really thin wash of pretty much whatever garbage was on my palette. But I made sure I had some darker colors. So I had a little bit of blue and I had a little bit of brown, like umber, and black and red and green, and mixed it all together. And because I had just a little smidge left from some other painting that I had done. So mixed all that up together. put a lot of paint thinner in it and made just a really thin wash and just painted over the entire thing, being intentionally very sloppy. So I have all these choppy brush strokes. It's thick some places, it's thin some places, and that gives you texture, gives you depth to what you're doing, and looks a little bit. Um, it looks a little bit like an atmosphere. For some reason, if you, like, say you were painting a blue sky, if you just take an airbrush like some people do, or a roller, or a really big brush, and you just very smoothly just paint the whole thing solid blue, it's probably um, it's probably going to be very pretty, but it's going to look flat. It's going to look like you just painted your wall blue, because that's pretty much what it looks like when you do that. But if you go with like 3 or 4 different shades of blue, maybe even some purples, maybe even some turquoise, at the different ends of your pile, your puddle of paint, and you just take it, go chop, 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 with your brush strokes, your 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 sky that you just did will look more like atmosphere. It'll look like something you can stick your hand through, and it'll have depth, because when you do look out there at the sky, um, it's transparent, but it does actually have bits and chunks and warm and cool spots in it, and uh, gases and dust and things like that are out there that are bouncing the light in different ways, and it is different. It kind of takes some study to realize it, but you do actually get a bit of a sparkle, or a bit of a texture to a clear blue sky. And even if you don't, it'll just still feel better if you do that. So I've gone over the whole thing with this clearish glaze of color. I picked up a little bit more blue as I went down, and then while the paint was still more or less still wet, I I took a brush, clean brush, in my paint thinner, and I went in and lifted spots out, kind of like I'm doing here. Can we see that? Or am I off the screen? Just kind of go in and lift a spot out, and that made like the highlights of the skin tone and everything. I picked up the top of the muscles, the tops of the ears. I picked out the cobblestones and stuff like that. So it was just all one big wash of paint, and then I came in and kind of erased a little bit with a rag and with a paintbrush with paint thinner on it. And so that's my underpainting, and that's been dry for a number of days now. This is oils, and so now I'm going in and doing some really dark for the, the very back, where we disappear through the doorway there. It's really dark in there. I don't know what the light source is in here. I mean, I know the direction, but I don't know where any light is coming from. I haven't indicated any torches or lanterns or anything. You're just going to have to take it as given that somewhere um, up here, there's a light, um, and, uh, and otherwise I'm just rolling with it, just rolling with it. So he's down here in this dungeon. He's walking around, and there's all these uh, monsters, and they're kind of accosting him. It was, of course, supposed to be, the barbarian plunging into the raging horde of evil beings. But as I drew it, it occurred to me that it looks more like they're arguing with each other, and they want him to arbitrate something. And so I I've started mentally to kind of roll in that direction. Um, that they're all trying to get his attention, which is kind of funny. None of our Dungeons and Dragons experiences went that way, but it's kind of funny to think about it going like that. So yeah, that gets you up to where I am. In the old days, if this was a window splash, I would fill in every single color, you know, and when I was done, I'd get the black paint and the paintbrush and go in and do all the details, all the outlines in black, and that would be that. And we're not doing that. We're doing a very different technique, and I have occasionally made a good oil painting doing this, but not so many times that I feel like I know what I'm doing. And 90% of the oil paintings I've done using this kind of technique, that have come out well and didn't wind up in the trash, um, are still lifes, uh, pictures of bottles and bowls and fruit and things like that. Not very many fantasy art things. The octopus that I auctioned off over the weekend was very intentionally done like my signs were done. And so, kind of using that technique, and the success of that was kind of another reminder that maybe it's what I should be doing all the time, because I sure had a bunch of people um, asking me to do another one. Do another one, I'll buy it up. You know, so it kind of like, maybe so, and I think I will. I haven't quite decided what form that's going to take. It. I don't want to turn myself backwards artistically, but would like to be making some money these days, and I haven't been, and I haven't been so much to the point that I've actually seen a couple help wanted signs at some stores and thought about going in and applying, and I kind of put the brakes on that the other day and said, octopuses sell. I mean, if I'm going to go do a day job, uh, maybe that will be my day job, and I'll do the fantasy art uh, on the side. I might just get so sidetracked that I just lose sight of my goal in life, but whatever. Um, John said it was good to get off track. John also said Bob Ross would call it a happy accidental depth. No, it's a deliberate accidental depth. And don't forget the cat hair. Oh, don't worry, there's cat hair in this already, and and baseballs. Oh, did you wind up with the baseball, the still life baseball that I did? Um, that came out kind of well, surprisingly well, for a guy that doesn't do baseball. I found that baseball in the gutter while we were out riding bikes, and I was like, "Well, that's cool. I'll do a still life." Picked it up and took it home. Been having a lot of conversations lately that are surprising to me, anyway. Um, about like the impact I've had on somebody's life or something. Um, and I'm like, are you sure you're talking to the right person? I, yeah, I really have never thought that there was any, you know, impact. That there's no underlying message to my art, or there's not even a theme particularly. And so you kind of think, if I'm going to do something that makes a difference, I've got to pick some story of human suffering and paint that, or some socially relevant issue or something like this. And just here lately, just pretty recently, past week or two, I've had a number of people tell me things like, that I was the one that inspired them to become an artist, or go back to being an artist, or um, uh, or that I somehow it helps them to not screw up their lives. There's somebody I know who's uh, had a kid who was going in a bad direction, and the coloring books made a difference to them. It made some kind of change. Um, I'm not being uh, more explicit or more what am I saying? I don't have the details. Okay, so I don't know. It's just somebody has told me somewhat tearfully, that all of this has been very, very important to them and very meaningful. And I, showed somebody that, well, that you can be your own person, that you can make your own decisions, choose your own path, kind of thing. And while I'm very, very glad to have put that message out there, because I do believe in that very much, I've never consciously, uh, made such a declaration, or pulled up a soapbox and tried to preach that sermon. I don't know how to preach that sermon. Um, so it's okay. They got it from context, and that's cool. And other people have gotten other things. I mean, girls have told me, about female empowerment and stuff. They've gotten that from my art, and I'm really glad, particularly glad of that, because other women have told me the opposite, that I'm that I'm a chauvinist or something. So it's gratifying to have somebody say that, that they got a message of empowerment from something that I do. Uh, However, if you're waiting for an obvious um, symbolism or message from this painting, um, you're gonna have to bring your own. I got nothing. Man battling his bestial nature. Something. So in a way, I said all of that so that I could say this. 2 years ago, at about this time, minus a few weeks, I was sexually assaulted down at my gym. And I just dropped my. If that comes over a little blunt, I invite you to attempt to find a natural segue to slip that into a conversation. Because it ain't easy to do. It's been on my mind for 2 years, and that's the first time I've gotten it out of my mouth. And I don't know why it's kind of troubling me now. Maybe it's the weather. It reminds me or something. I don't know really. But I'll back up and give you some details. By the way, you've already heard as many gory, sloppy, sticky details as you're going to hear. So that part's behind you. But 2 years ago, 2018, I had an operation, and kind of in a way, it didn't really go very well. My recovery was uh, poor, and my stomach was hurting a lot, and I mean a lot. Like I was walking around holding onto my guts and kind of bent over like a cripple, and I was walking slow, and I went to the doctor, and they sent me for a CAT scan, and they got the CAT scan results back, and they said, "Oh, you've got inflammation." And I said, "Well, what do I do about it?" And they said, "Nah, let's talk about the 17 other things that the CAT scan showed us." And so I was off. I was scheduled for a bunch of things we didn't wind up eventually even going to, but I was off seeing one doctor after another, getting blood test after blood test after blood test, and um, that'll wreck me. If you don't know me, you don't realize how bad that a thing that is. But I mean, that'll wreck me for a week, And I was getting, I don't know how many I got. I got a bunch of them. And so anyhow, and I was feeling bad, and I was on drugs, and drugs always make me feel bad, and I was feeling depressed. And all of these medical things were spending every penny we had, and I was bummed out, and I wasn't making any money. I hadn't made any money in a while. My sister just died. And it was a rough year. It wasn't a good time. And so if I went someplace, I was so self-absorbed that people walk right up to me and say something to me, and I didn't even know they were there. And that's a very dangerous way to walk out in public. I mean, you shouldn't do that. And and I know that. I mean, I'm a grown man. But I thought I'd feel better if I went to the gym, and they have, of course, a dressing room, and it's private, and off of the dressing room is a steam room, and it's very private, and it's insulated, and it's full of steam, and you can't see a foot in front of your face, and you wouldn't know if there was somebody there. And it was an off day in the middle of early afternoon when there's hardly anybody there, and I thought I was by myself, and I was not. And it turns out, I think, that some people are probably looking for guys that are acting like I was acting at the time, which was oblivious and weak. Uh, I mean, I feel so much better right now. I don't think it would happen to me now, because it would be more obvious that I'd fight you. But at the time, um, I positively didn't have it in me to fight, which means I shouldn't have been there. It's my fault for going there. I should not have been. I should not have walked into a corner that I couldn't get out of and couldn't see, and 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 in a condition where if anything were to happen, I couldn't defend myself. But I did, and so that happened. So I want you to know I did everything absolutely 100% correctly. If you're ever in this situation, I did all the things that you're supposed to do. I went straight into the shower and washed all the evidence off of myself. And I went home and didn't tell a soul and wallowed in self hatred and blame and guilt and shame for a while. And now I want to be clear. I don't know a single person that hasn't been through something worse than I have. I'm perfectly aware that as such things go, um, my experience didn't take up a whole lot of my time, and was pretty much done almost as soon as it started, and it's the only time it's happened, and as opposed to kids who had to endure this kind of thing for years. Um, lots of people have had it so much worse that this is not a complaint kind of a story. Until you get to this part. Until we get to the bad part. Here's the bad part. After a few days, I decided I really should have told somebody. I really should have done something. And maybe it would do me some good to talk about it some way. And I didn't know what I was going to do or whether I was going to get the nerve up to talk or anything. But God help me, I opened my Facebook. And here's what I saw on my Facebook feed. I saw a meme that said, "Hey, victims of sexual assault, fuck you." And I went, what? And I scrolled, and underneath that, it said, "Hey, rape victims, fuck off, nobody cares." And I scrolled again, and there was another one. These are from different people I know. And there were like 15 of these things in a row, just one after another. And I know there's nothing rational about thinking that was about me. um, but I wasn't in my most rational state of mind. And I thought all that was about me. I spent several minutes, I don't know how long, believing that everybody I know somehow already knew what had happened, were angry at me for it, and had gotten together and said, as soon as Gil comes online, let's all get together and tell him to go fuck himself because we hate him for doing this. That's what I thought for a couple of minutes. And then it slowly became clear that there was some other issue. There were references to the Senate, to the Republicans, etc. So I went and looked at the news and realized, the Senate has just confirmed Brett Kavanaugh's appointment to the Supreme Court. That's what this is about. Not about me. So I wrote a post and said, if you're a victim of sexual assault and you open your Facebook and see all these jokes about the Senate and rape and all of this, you're not going to recognize it as some solidarity for rape victims or sympathy for rape victims or whatever. You're going to view it, if it's just happened to you, if it's just something raw and recent, you're going to see this as an attack. I did, is what I said. And nobody picked up on the "I did." The only thing anybody picked up on was, we are saying these words right here, and because we're right, any set of words that are not 100% exactly these words are wrong, and therefore you're the motherfucking devil. And I had people jumping on me. It started a little slow and quiet, but it built up. And I had people jumping on me and calling me a sexist and a rapist and a Republican and all kinds of other dirty, filthy words. And I had some people didn't tell me, but we're not friends anymore on Facebook, so I'm pretty sure, and right about then, they disappeared from my Facebook, so I'm pretty sure that's why. Other people let me know in no uncertain terms, we're not friends anymore because I'm sick and tired of your fucking bigotry. And And then one girl that I actually know, and I mean, I know her in real life and care about, said, "Well, I hope you get raped so you know what it feels like." So again, I did the brave thing and I just deleted my post and didn't talk about it again for 2 years. um, and there's been any number of times that I thought I would broach the topic. And just in case, I went looked at the news just to see if there was another freaking Kavanaugh story or some goddamn thing. And you know what? There always is. There always is. There's a there's a Me Too movement or Black Lives Matter or something that's going to make people think you're trying to make things all about you, or you're trying to dilute um, the real issue, or I don't know. It's something I've talked myself out of. A conversation that I've talked myself out of having more times than I can tell you. And it's not really a conversation I want to just keep on having, but yeah, um, the event itself, in many ways, was not that big a deal. The uh, the experience on Facebook, that sucked. That was 10 times worse. That sucked hard. Um, and I see people, um, especially now, there's an election coming up and stuff, and I see people just like, you know, if we don't agree 100% on absolutely every issue, if we don't, if your words aren't exactly precisely my words, straight down the line, I'm not going to be your friend anymore. And and sometimes I think you're disagreeing with somebody who's not disagreeing with you. You're just disagreeing with, or just saying, the words you're using aren't my words, so you must be evil, or so it feels to me. I don't really, not really, have a point, like usual. Um, I don't really have a point. I've looked at a lot of online discussions, things like this. I haven't joined any groups or talked to anybody. Uh, like I said, I don't really think that the event traumatized me. Um, Obviously, it bugs me. You know, I still go to my gym, but I don't go to the steam room, and I think I never will, because now I recognize it as a corner. It's like I'm now thinking about the fact I'm now watching situations. When I go someplace, I'm like, can I get out of here? Can I? Is there only one entry and exit, or is there multiple ways to escape from here? I think about things like that. And I used to think about things like that when I was little. I thought about that kind of thing a lot because there were bullies, and I was more on guard for bullies. But that isn't something I had to deal with in a long time. But now, of course, I'm getting old. Um, I'm younger now than I was 2 years ago. I'll tell you that. But I'm still getting old. I still have that to look forward to. That this sort of thing Sort of thing happens to a lot of old guys in nursing homes. They say it's like 1 in 6 men have had such an experience, but most of them, it was in their childhood, and most of the rest of them, it was when they were old. And 2 years ago, for a couple months, I was extremely old and walked. I mean, butterfly could land on me and crush my skull. I mean, I was just really feeble for a while there, and somebody took advantage of that. And, uh, yeah, yeah, that's all. That's it. Um, and so somebody says they're loving this piece. I love this piece too. I really am looking forward to pulling the rest of it together. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a really fun thing. I'm noticing, and for the time being, I'm not going to worry about it. I don't do backgrounds, not very much. I do very little. Um, it's like I do a central character, uh, like in my charcoal pieces. There's sometimes a prop or two around them, or a creature or another figure with them, and very little else. Um, and I think I could say the word sign painter again. I think that's still a residue of my time as a sign painter that is like the big, bright, attention grabbing thing is right here in the middle. There's some secondary stuff around him, um, but there's not going to be a hell of a lot as a background or a foreground. This whole painting is a lot more involved than most of the ones I do, but yeah, yeah, I'm glad it's happening. It's a fun little thing. It's been 40 minutes ish, and so yeah. Sorry to regale you with a creepy story, but won't happen again. Um, all love and peace, sunshine, and donuts from now on. I just had to get that off my chest. And like I said, you say things, and you don't know what's going to happen with it. It could just go, it could just drift out there forever and nothing, and not anything worthwhile happen to it. Or somebody could stumble across it and for some reason be, just the thing they needed to hear, or God knows, God even knows. But there have been a couple of times in recent videos that I sucked in my breath and went, and nothing came out. and so, and often I find myself going, well, what is the point? I don't know what the point is. I don't know. I don't have a point. Just take it at that. I don't have a point. And it's been 43 minutes, and I'm gonna let you go. This was Monday. This, I suppose, is Ned. And I'll be back tomorrow. I don't know if I'm gonna keep doing painting. I might come in, do some more painting on this tomorrow, but I'm certainly going to paint on it in the meantime. So we'll see what happens. All right. Have a good night.